Welcome back to Cadet Rob's Movie Medals. It's our second episode, and we're going to focus on a new TV show that came out in 2020 called Space Force, and the character of General Mark Naird, played by Steve Carell. And because it's a modern movie made in the 21st century, we have really good screen captures, so we're able to really get good looks at his uniform. Several different uniforms that he wears. All right, so let's look at his uniform. Of course, he's a 4-star general. He's the commander of Space Force. His ribbon rack is actually the most accurate and correct ribbon rack that I've seen so far. I don't know if this is because in the 21st century it's a lot easier because of tools that are available on the internet, or also because of Wikipedia, where you can double check to see that you've done your homework and all that. Also, even though some of the smaller details seem to be a little more correct for the detailed background of his character, the age of his characters, things like that. So his ribbon rack seems to be correct. Of course, he's wearing his Air and Space qualification badge. He's got his command pilot badge. His pilot wings, and also he has his U.S. Air Force Pentagon staff badge. He also seems to be wearing a Space Force staff badge that is not a real thing yet. So it's something they made up for the movies, for the television show. So let's go on. Let's see what we got here. All right, so Steve Carell. He was 57 years old in 2020 when this TV show came out. This makes General Mark Naird born around 1966. He's actually maybe a little younger than Steve Carell in reality. He joined the Air Force around 1988 at the age of 21, assuming, from graduating from college. I'm assuming also, although I haven't seen anything anywhere on his uniform. There isn't anything for his uniform, but I haven't seen him wear an academy ring or seen anything in his office that indicated he went to the Air Force Academy. If anybody knows or caught something when they were watching the show, that he was ROTC or he was Academy, he doesn't have any ribbons that indicate he was prior enlisted. So I'm pretty sure that he went to the Air Force Academy, considering the position, rising all the way to the top. Being a pilot, it's a lot easier to do that if you go to the Academy. So then he switched over from the Air Force to Space Command. His longevity award shows that he had 32 years of service. So that's kind of how I was able to base his potential joining date, and of course it's within a couple of years because they only give those out every 4 years. So it could be off by a year or two here or there. He did serve in the Gulf War, based on his ribbon rack, Afghanistan, probably Bosnia, and I think he also mentions Bosnia in the show, and Iraq. He was wounded once. He has a Purple Heart. He's earned both the Silver and Bronze Stars and the Distinguished Flying Cross, as well as multiple air medals. And he mentions, several times that he's flown many different models of fighters, but his favorite was the F-35. So he's been around the Air Force for a good amount of time. Probably flew the F-15, maybe an F-16. Who knows what other planes he's flown over the years. He's served multiple tours at the Pentagon based on his more than one Department of Defense medals. And he's had numerous short deployments during his career, including combat. So he's a command pilot and a senior air and space qualified. So let's look at the rack. All right, so his first is the Department of Defense Distinguished Service Medal. He has 2 Legions of Merit awards, which that's a pretty high level. Probably an end of command ribbon for previous commands that he finished. Being a 4-star general, he's had a lot of commands over the years, and being a pilot, he's probably risen through squadron and group and Air Force level commands, probably even other area commands, rising up to become the number 2 at the Air Force, and then finally the number 1 at Space Command. He has a Distinguished Flying Cross, a Bronze Star, a Purple Heart. So he was wounded somewhere along the way. I don't think they've ever really said in the show where he was wounded. I think they sort of imply Bosnia, but I could be wrong with that. Then he has the Department of Defense Meritorious Service Medal. He has 3 Meritorious Service Medals, 3 Air Medals, the Air Force Achievement Medal, 2 Air Force Commendation Medals. He has a Combat Action Medal, Department of Defense Meritorious Unit with the frame, the Air Force Gallant Unit Medal, 4 of those, the U.S. Air Force Combat Ready Medal, 2 National Defense Service Awards, which I thought that they might have made a mistake here, but they did not. It looks like there's just the Iraq War time period, and then the global war on terrorism time period. So you have only two time periods where they give those out. So even though he's been in multiple conflicts, most of those fall under that global war on terrorism time period. He has the Southwest Asia Award campaign medal, which he has at 2 times. 2 awards. Same with Afghanistan and Iraq. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he was deployed there twice. Those are campaign stars, which just means that he served in more than one campaign. He has the Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Award, which I think maybe Bosnia might be where he earned that. Global War on Terror Service Award, the Air and Space Campaign Medal, the Air Force Overseas Short Tour. And I was double-checked his uniform to make sure it was a short tour, not the long tour. So these are relatively I think it's usually under a year. And he has 11 of those. It's amazing. He has the U.S. Air Force Expeditionary Medal, and I double-checked to make sure it was a silver clasp, so which means he's been awarded that 6 times. Including at least once, where it was Combat Award, which is why he has the gold frame. He has 8 Air Force Longevity Awards, which is 32 years of service. He could have, 33, 34, but he's less than 36 and at least 32 years of service in the Air Force. Now, we don't know from the show if the Air Force is still awarding, since the Space Force falls under the Department of the Air Force. Is some of that from Space Force time? Is all of that from Air Force time? I don't know. I'd have to go and double check his ribbon rack from the beginning of the show to see if there's any difference, when he was a 3-star general being promoted to 4-star general in the first episode. So maybe that's something to do in a follow-up episode. Small Arms Expert ribbon, Air Force Training ribbon, which is how we know he's not prior enlisted, because he would have a oak leaf cluster on that, right? And then the Saudi Liberation of Kuwait medal and the Kuwaiti Liberation medal. So it's quite an impressive ribbon rack. It's the biggest one that I've seen so far, since I started doing this. Of course, it's only episode 2, but I have quite a few other episodes planned, and I haven't seen anybody's ribbon rack anywhere near this. So it's pretty impressive. Now, of course, on the show, you can see he wears a custom ribbon rack, so that his lapels on his uniform don't cover up any of his awards. But this is basically the ribbon rack that he has. So it's a pretty impressive impressive set of medals. And then, of course, he has the Senior Air and Space Qualification Badge, the Command Pilot Badge, and the Air Force Staff Badge. And, I'm thinking that other badge on his uniform is a Space Force created for the show, Space Force badge. And you can also see on his lapels in the show, he has these crazy little satellite things where the US's would normally go. This is that Space Force badge that I'm talking about, right? We don't really never get a good look at what that looks like. And then, of course, he has these little weird satellite-looking things that replaced the US's on the officer's uniform. And then, of course, they wear that dark blue shirt instead of the light blue shirt that the Air Force wears. But other than that, it's basically a standard Air Force issue uniform. So, okay. So, this has been episode 2. I hope you liked it. Like, comment, share. Hopefully, we'll have many more of these episodes to come. And, I really enjoy movies. So, especially ones about the military. So please send us your recommendations of movies we should do, or especially individual characters. I may do other characters from ones I've already done in the past. As we move along. So, all right, that's the end of this episode. Thanks.